to another great episode of The Bourbon Road with your hosts, Jim and Brian, where they talk bourbon and, of course, drink bourbon. Grab yourself a pour, kick back, and enjoy another trip down the Bourbon Road.
Very excited to have Blanton'sBourbonShop.com as a new sponsor for the Bourbon Road podcast. In fact, this podcast is brought to you by Blanton's Bourbon Shop. Blanton'sBourbonShop.com is the only official merchandiser for Blanton's, the original single barrel. Looking for a unique gift? Blanton's Bourbon Shop has got you covered. Blanton'sBourbonShop.com is your home for all Blanton's gifts. The Bourbon Road is excited to have PintsandBarrels.com as a sponsor of this episode, as well as our official custom apparel provider. Be sure to check out PintsandBarrels.com and browse their ultimate online store for bourbon lovers. Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Road podcast. I'm your host, Jim Shannon, and today we're once again in the Rare Eagle Bar. What a treat for us. We have a couple of friends with us. It is Rob and I, but we've got a couple of friends with us today.
In the house, yeah.
Yeah, and a couple of our friends from the Frankfurt Bourbon Society. Heck, they're not just from the Frankfurt Bourbon Society. They're actually our friends, too. So.
Yeah.
But Todd Ritter, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Good to be here again.
Yeah, and Amzie Winning.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Glad to be here for the first time in the Rare Eagle Bar, my first visit.
Yeah, it's quite a spot. There's a lot to talk about here. So we all showed up about an hour early just to have Rob give us a tour.
It's like walking a museum.
Yeah.
Yeah, my own personal museum.
But we've got a treat for you guys today. We're going to drink through 4 different whiskeys, and we're going to try and have a blind, but I think today sometimes blinds can get a little confusing for the listener. They're trying to follow along. What were they drinking? What was A? What was B? What was C? I think today we each brought a bottle, and we're just going to drink through them as a group, and we'll talk about them each one. But today we're focusing on American Single Malt whiskeys, and everybody brought, I don't know if it's your favorite bottle, but the one you had interest in showing up with today.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yep. Kind of right along my favorite, my palate.
Yeah.
Flavor palate. Sorry, I couldn't get that word out.
Rob's in that malt zone lately.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, Maltster's got a hold of you.
Brain cells and taste buds have gone downhill. So
it's just exploring new things. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
All right. So, Rob, I think you brought our first whiskey today, didn't you?
I did, and I don't know a whole lot about it. These guys, Amzie and Todd, we're kind of looking at the bottle there, so we don't even know who makes the stuff fully, I don't guess, but the 10-year single malt whiskey, which...
Who bottles it?
Well, Bullet.
Local to you.
Yeah. It's right here. I guess they at least do that, right?
Yeah. I think they probably do bottle it, but they're not making it. In fact, I don't know where that distillery is in their aging process right now as far as their liquids go.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I know
it's a few years, right? 2 or 3 years?
Sure. Could be 4.
Could be 4.
But that'd be about it.
But they're a Diageo company, and they have a close relationship with Four Roses. And, it's suspect that a lot of their stuff comes from partner organizations like Four Roses. As they build up their inventories, they got quite a production facility there. So we know barrels are being laid down and have been being laid down for some time. But this is something that I'm assuming they don't make there. Maybe they do.
Yeah.
We're not aware of it, but this is something that they more than likely... either contract distill or have just bought a bunch of barrels of.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know if they have this is doing well enough for them to warrant distilling this actual mash bill and their own single malt themselves.
Now, everybody's kind of doing it, right? I mean, Beam's doing it. Bullet's doing it now. We got a number of them here not those two, but a lot of people are dipping their toe in American single malts, I would say. But the craft guy's been doing it for a little while.
Yeah, yeah.
So what's the proof on this? I think you said it was 90 proof.
Mm-hmm. Sure, 90.
All right, so we're tasting 90 proof American single malt from Bullet Distilling out of Shelbyville, Kentucky. We think it may be MGP single malt, but
I think that's what I recall, but
we're not 100% sure.
you can always Google it.
But we could always taste it and tell people what we think about it.
Sure.
So, cheers.
Cheers.
It's got like a honeycomb nose.
Yeah, it also has kind of an earthy, odd, spicy note to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say odd in a bad way. Odd in kind of a good way.
Almost a little bit of a floral, nose, on like a very light, like, I'm not the best at the flower. Maybe a little like lavender type flower almost, heather or something.
I'm going to agree with you because I'm not too hot at that either.
It's almost like they snuck one drop of an Amburana in there. Like one drop, just enough to give you that little bitty odd spice note.
Hint of cinnamon twist.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of light. It seems almost refreshing at 90. I mean, I would have maybe guessed 80, but I don't know. It's pretty smooth.
Yeah, the taste is good too. I love the nose. It is unusual. It is different than other American single malts that I've had.
And I think on the bottle it said in new American oak barrels as well, which I don't, especially for 10 years old, I don't get a ton of oak. The whiskey really shines through on this.
Yeah, sometimes that new oak will sort of take over a little bit on a whiskey like this, particularly a malt whiskey, which malt whiskeys typically find their way into used barrels, right?
Well, and of course, the other thing, it doesn't mention char or toast level or anything like that.
I don't think it's got much because that's
that
barely got any color to
one
it.
or two is what I'm thinking. If it's a 10-year for sure. There's actually it really lingers on the palate after that sip. Surprisingly, it's got just a little hint of heat that makes me think it could be over 90 if you were trying it blind. It's nice.
Yeah, I think the palate does have a little bit of it's sweet, it's light, but on the back it dries out just a little bit. It's got kind
just
of
a hair.
Yeah. So I guess that makes it not overly sweet then.
It's like a honey tea thing going to me.
Honey, or I was thinking
honey, like floral tea.
Like a wildflower honey, or almost even a little like orange flower honey or something.
Clover honey.
Do you get a little citrus too?
Yes.
Like very light citrus there?
Like you just took a little lemon squeeze and like dropped a little bit in there.
Yeah, I wish I had all these great words like, oh yeah, that's lemon verbena or something. I don't. I every time you say something, I get it kind of in a little bit. It is floral. It is almost like a hot toddy kind of.
Yeah.
It always resonates back to the floral side for me.
Yeah, this is my first time trying that. I like this. Good one, Rob.
Rob, do you remember what you paid for this bottle? Ballpark?
$60. Yeah. Kroger.
So that's probably about MSRP then. Kroger's usually pretty good about.
Right. So what do you guys think about $60 for a single malt, American single malt?
And it is age stated at 10 years?
It is.
That's if you do that 10 for 10 or 10 per year, although that's usually bourbon.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know about.
You can't do that for scotches, and well, certainly you can't do that for scotches. And American single malts, I don't know that there's any rules yet on American single malts.
Right,
it's
still waiting.
Yeah.
I mean, I would go as far as to say I think I'll try and get a bottle of this.
Right,
like I enjoy it.
I think I will too. This would be a warm weather whiskey for me. I could see drinking this on a hot day out on the porch. When I want something a little bit more than a beer. Yeah.
It'd be a good one for today, actually, outside, if we were sitting outside.
I think so, too.
It's a pretty warm day.
Yeah, I think I would give it a thumbs up and probably a recommend at $60. And Bullet's more or less available everywhere, right? I mean, their distribution it's big.
Pretty big, yeah.
This is not exactly a frontier whiskey, let's just say, but
Yeah.
It'll be. Go ahead, Rob.
Go ahead. You had a thought.
I was going to say it'll be interesting to see if they come out with any kind of like cask proof version or something a little higher proof. It'd be interesting to see if that comes out because, everybody loves to put out different variations and take up that shelf space.
Yeah. And that's where I like to go is that high proof stuff. What I was going to say, I actually was at Kroger and was walking out the door when I saw the rack of this, and I was kind of shocked. And a guy was standing there, happened to be, I guess, one of the sales reps or something. And I guess I was one of the first people to buy a bottle, or at least while he was in there. And he took me out to his car and gave me a bag of, like a hat and a hugger and a little zip bag or something. And so some little swag, I guess you'd say, and thanked me for buying it. So
I just wonder if he was just like excited that somebody bought it, because it is kind of an unknown thing to a lot of people, right?
Especially in Kentucky, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you go into Shelby County and ask 100 people how many of them have had American Single Malts.
Could you name 6 brands that, put out a single malt?
Probably, Rob and I are probably the only 2 in Shelby. Maybe not. Maybe I'm being weird about it. But I think it is a new thing. It is an emerging thing. It's something that I think some of us have talked about. Like, it's going to get bigger, right? Because
it'll be interesting to see, like, Kentucky's all about our bourbon, or all about our bourbon. Like, it'd be interesting to know what kind of sales for single malts go on here.
But you know what? So I've kind of always, I know I got a lot of bourbon and I drink a lot, but mentally, I kind of classify myself as a novice because I just drink it. I don't dive in real deep a lot of times. And even when I do dive in, then I drink bourbon and I forget it. So it's no use diving in too deep. But point of all this, I'll say is, we're constantly bringing in novices to the bourbon world, to this spirit world. And, like for me, I think the lines are so blurred anymore as to what a bourbon is that I don't know. These things will probably rise quicker than they might otherwise would have, just because, if I say, here, try this bourbon, nobody knows. I don't even think about it sometimes, when I offer this, that it's not a Kentucky bourbon,
right.
So it's kind of, everything's getting so blurred and there's so many different spaces. I don't know.
I think people are still really excited and enthusiastic about spirits in general. And, bourbon is still extremely popular, but, I don't know if you listen to podcasts, right? You listen to a podcast, you listen to a podcast, you listen to a podcast, and all of a sudden you find there's another one on the same topic. You're like, oh. And then, there's a YouTube channel too. You start expanding your horizons. You're like, oh my goodness, I can listen while I cut grass and drive to work and sweep the house. So yeah, it's just that people are always looking for more content, looking for more options in the whiskey world. So I think, I think I mentioned earlier that our malted rye episode was one of our highest downloaded episodes in like the last 2 years. And I'm thinking to myself, why is that? Well, people don't know a lot about malted rye and they're curious, right? And I think the same thing with American Single Malts. I think we'll find that, people are super curious about it. Not only that, what do you think about, Scotch still outsells bourbon many times over in the world?
Well, and I think that could be one thing that hampers American Single Malts is most Americans' fear of Scotch whiskey. I like Scotch. I definitely don't drink Scotch as frequently as I do bourbon. This is something that people shouldn't be afraid of. It's very approachable. I think most people, if you just included this along with tasting some bourbons, they would say, oh, this one's really different, but they would enjoy it.
Is it way off from the Scotch flavor as well? Could you slide it in the Scotch side? And
you could. It'd be a very light, unpeated Scotch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this would be definitely a non-smoky Scotch, something a
Right.
little bit lighter.
And I think you're going to have to get to that point where when you say Scotch to someone who doesn't, or even in a single American malt, you got to get to that like point where people are like, they don't think of something that's going to be peated. Like you say, hey, would you like to try this Scotch? And their instant thought is it's going to be, that smoky, earthy, and it's, I mean, yes, there are versions like that, your
Band-Aids and
Lagavulins and yeah. But there's a lot of Scotches that don't even come close to that. So, and I hope that's not the case with, it's going to take some education from a lot of areas to get beyond that fear for a lot of, these people wanting to explore.
And I have seen a trend in American single malts using new oak barrels. So, that's kind of a thing that sets it off a little bit. So you're going to have a more oaky profile. You're going to, for younger ones, you're going to have a little bit more of that new oak. For those that spend more time in the barrel, this one, 10 years in a barrel, that's pretty substantial. All right. I think we're all thumbs up on this one, right?
That's fun.
All right, folks. Well, if you see the Bullet American Single Malt, it's kind of in a greenish brown tinted bottle.
Gray.
Is it a gray?
Mm-hmm.
And but it's got a green label.
Hold on.
A gray label.
Unless I'm colorblind.
No, I mean the glass.
I'd say grayish
the glass
oak.
color.
Oh.
The glass color is kind of greenish, isn't it?
Oh, sure. It absolutely is. I'm sorry.
But the label's gray.
Yeah, the label's gray.
Grayish ochre.
Yeah.
Can we say
ochre? No, you are correct on
All right,
that.
if you see it on the shelves at $60, I think the four of us feel that's.
It's in recycled glass.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. That was one of the things they told me. I forgot about that. So, yeah.
You and your good friend from
dummy.
Bullet, right?
But yeah, whoever that guy was.
That's pretty awesome, though.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
I wish somebody would give me something every time I bought a bottle.
I know. You'd have a big pile of stuff.
Kids could tear it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Are we ready to move on to the next one?
I believe so.
All right, Amzie, I think you brought this one, didn't you?
I did. I just hope this stands up after that last one we had, the Bullet. So yesterday the Frankfurt Bourbon Society, we had a crawfish boil at Hunter Coffee's house. Hunter used to be the distiller out at Whiskey Thief, and so I was in a Louisiana state of mind after the crawfish boil, and so I brought American Single Malt from Atelier V Distillery in New Orleans, Louisiana.
I'm glad you had to say that, not me.
Yeah. Don't ask me how to spell it.
I know bonjour in French. That's about it.
So my wife Destiny and I were in New Orleans a few years ago. Sometimes I'll go somewhere new, and on Google Maps, I Google distillery and see what pops up. Found Atelier V, scheduled to visit. It's a very neat place. So the distiller there, his name is Jed Haas, and he is an artist. And his distillery is located in this old industrial park and a factory building that has been converted to some sort of artist colony where there are various studios in there. You get buzzed in, you go in, past people doing paintings and sculptures, and you go into his. And that day we could smell all the herbs and everything. I think he was making absinthe when we went there.
Cool.
So very interesting labels. Jed's a very interesting, very nice, very friendly person. We loved our visit that day. And I was just impressed by this, and hadn't tried it in a while. I did not try it since I decided this is what I was bringing. So I haven't tried this in probably a couple years.
All right, let's check it out. I'm hitting that nose, Todd, and I'm telling you, I'm picking up similar kind of floral, spicy notes on it.
Yeah. This is going to sound weird, but we all have our moments. It reminds me of like when you open a stove that's got like fresh baked, like you're baking some bread a little bit. There's like this kind of bready note that's hitting my nose.
Now, and I haven't tasted this yet, but on the nose, I get a little more of a traditional Scotchy nose. I don't know if this is peated or smoked at all on the malt, but I feel like on the nose, I get a little something there.
Like just a tinge of medicinal?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm getting the same thing.
And there's some fruit. There's a lot more fruity notes going on here. Not like dark fruits, but like your pear.
Yep.
Like a
stone fruits, right?
Yeah. Stone fruits.
Not the cherry stone fruits, but pear and peach.
Totally different ball game than that first one.
Really. That one little, I don't know, I get like a mentholatum.
Yeah, it does have a nice airy light nose to it.
Yeah, that was the note that I got.
Did you say the proof on this one, Amzie?
94 proof.
94, so up a little bit.
It does say a used American oak barrel, aged at least 2 years. That's what this one says.
A little younger.
Okay, so I am picking up a little bit more of the Scotchy notes here.
Yes.
It's definitely a little bit more across the pond style, right? A little bit of like an iodine note. Is that is that right?
I would say so.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he definitely has to have some smoked malt, peated malt maybe in there. But very, very light on that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think it's peated malt, but it might be like some sort of like cherry. Some other smoked malt. It's not.
We've said chemical, medicinal. We've thrown all this stuff out, which would sound horrible,
but it's not.
But it's awesome.
It's actually really good.
This is really good.
I think when you take those and people always call out things like Band-Aids and ashtrays and all that kind of campfire and all that. But when you take them in very small doses, they can be exceptionally good.
Sure. Is that just taking you back to a place that you loved once when you say, whatever, Band-Aid or whatever? I mean, I don't know.
I can't remember an experience with a Band-Aid that was good, but I mean,
but
it does have that iodine note.
Just a hint, yeah.
Which I think is okay.
Some of the super smoky, peaty scotches like Lafroig, I often describe that as smelling like a burnt electrical wiring or a burning tire.
Doesn't that sound?
But yet when you drink it, it's like somehow it's good. You know.
Yeah.
Now this is, much lighter than that, but there's a little bit of that.
This would be a very gentle introduction to those kind of whiskeys.
Yeah.
So just a hair of it in there, just enough of it, you just pick it up. But it's well rounded for such a young whiskey. I think it doesn't have like these off-putting youthful notes or anything.
This would have gone really well yesterday with all that crawfish.
Yeah.
I bet.
I saved it for you guys though.
Yeah. Cause what was fun about yesterday is like, we basically like kind of like bourbon or something. We did batches. So like the first batch was like lightly seasoned, and then the seasoned and the heat on that seasoning kept going up with each batch that was boiled. So by that third one, it was pretty zesty.
Yeah.
But by that time, everyone was just so full.
I'm sorry I missed it. It sounded like you guys had such a great time.
Yeah, we've got some fun stuff coming up. I think we're just going to have like a little cookout there at what we call the Corner Rick House, our Bourbon Society building, May
20th, I think.
Yeah, 20th.
It's the third Monday in May.
If any of you bourbon roadies are touring about, coming to Kentucky about that time, which is a great time to come to Kentucky and do some tours, let us know. I mean,
it's always a great time to.
Yeah, you guys got quite a calendar. I think last week you had several events, didn't you?
The last couple weeks have been very busy. We probably had 5 or 6 events in the last.
My wife
2 weeks.
Lot.
Yeah.
Payback.
It's like you get a spa day or something. But yeah, we've had. We just had the folks from. I'm drawing Bespoken. They're a fairly new operation. We had a kind of our own private event at Lawrenceburg Bourbon Company, which was a blast. He's got a really new, it's called a high wheat rye whiskey. And it was fabulous. It's a 7-year-old that he had distilled down in Florida like 7 years ago and just won an award. I can't remember where he said that.
Maybe Denver
or something, but really unique. And, Greg's a lot of fun. He's very go get him. And we actually got to meet his wife for the first time, and she's somehow she's more energetic than he is.
Yeah,
she's awesome. Katie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Katie. She's
great.
really nice.
Yeah,
She worked in our tent this last year, and she's such a treat, and it was so nice to work with her.
But there are new places. Wow. I was there to pick up one of your bottles, in fact, and it was just kind of walk in, and they had a few shelves, but now they have like 2 separate bars. They have a humidor.
Yeah, sure.
And it's
so they have finished that now.
Yes,
Wow.
it's really neat.
So can you go to his bar and have a pour and a cigar now?
The cigars would have to be outside. So, they just opened literally last week, the new bar. They're going to start on the covered porch out front where you'll be able to enjoy the cigar. But yeah, cocktails, pours of their whiskeys. They also, which I think may be distillery only products, some interesting finishes he's working on. Maple syrup. There was an Amberana. There was a Brazilian fruit, which they can't pronounce, but it sounds sort of like Shakira. So there was a picture of Shakira on that barrel.
And then the rose water.
Yeah, they make their own rose water for cocktails. And they are, I don't know if you'd almost say brewing the rose water in a used bourbon barrel. And then they're finishing some bourbon in that barrel. And rose water can be a very strong, like drinking perfume. So I was surprised at how light the finish was on that. Really interesting.
Wow.
Rob, we might have to grab the cigar clan and head out that way one
I was
way.
going to say,
if
you get up to Wild Turkey, I think their visitor center just reopened again. I think.
I believe so.
Yeah, highly recommend. It's right along that road. Is it 62, I believe?
Yeah, right as you driving from Lawrenceburg towards Turkey,
Yes.
they're on the left.
They're on the left. Pop in and try a few pours.
And then Lawrenceburg is on the left, same side of the road, same road, a half a mile prior to Wild Turkey?
Yes.
Yeah, so 2 for 1 right there.
Yep.
My office is right there, so I'll pop in occasionally, but I haven't, oddly enough, I didn't know that either one of those were completed yet, so I've kind of been missing out on that. So.
And I think on the that high wheat rye, I think they said there were only 30 barrels made.
Wow.
And so I'm sure that'll last them a little while, but grab one while you can. Those are just phenomenal.
So real quickly regarding the Bourbon Society in Frankfurt, I know you have a membership of people that are consistent and local and so forth, but you were talking about people coming in from out of town and so forth. What's the options or opportunities?
We actually have a few members that are from out of town. And, usually they're the kind that come in probably, more than once a year, and, they'll come grab some single barrels. Actually, a friend of mine, Eric Mays, who's also a roadie, he's in Wisconsin, but he comes in like once a year, but
so they just went on and joined.
Yeah, just joined, and I may or may not have shipped him some of our bottles.
Nice.
He was in need, and I hate to see anybody in need.
Well, it's great if you're coming to the trail to tour distilleries and have your nice little bourbon vacation, right? To be a member of the Frankfurt Bourbon Society and know there's a number of picks there that you can stop in and pick up while you're here, right? Because you guys have got a pretty good track record for having some great picks.
Yeah, we've got one we're very excited about coming up soon.
Yeah. And you also have a pretty good inventory of barrels under your
ownership.
Yeah, the proprietary stuff we've distilled there at Whiskey Thief. And of course, those are all different mash bills. So hopefully we've done some good stuff. We'll figure out here in a few years when those are ready.
But usually, there's kind of an open invite to any of the roadies. Doug Keller, you have one of his paintings, and he hit me up. I know he's coming, I think, in June again, and he and I are going to go down to Glens Creek Distilling because he wants to go check it out and maybe get some, I'm assuming, some photos for some painting ideas or something. And I was like, I'd love to take you down there. So
Doug's a hell of an artist.
Yeah. And a hell of a guy.
And a hell of a guy. That's right. He did host us at his house for an episode a month or so back. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I met him down at our little clubhouse, and I've met a few other roadies here and there. And yeah, so any roadie just hit Amzie and I up, and we'd love to meet you at our clubhouse and have a pour.
You guys have such knowledge of the local options as well. So you can come to this area and have some ideas in your brain about where you want to go and what you want to do, but until you've been here and a part of it, there's so much more that people miss out on that they don't know about if they don't hit some locals.
And Rob, you do your part when you're out and about in Shelbyville. 'Cause we get a lot of people in Shelbyville to overnight, right? Because Shelbyville is kind of like right in the heart of Bardstown, Frankfort, Louisville, Lexington. We're kind of right in the middle here. So all the B&Bs fill up, all the VRBOs fill up. It's
quite a few around here,
and
now.
they're out at the the craft beer places we have here in Shelbyville. Yeah. And you're meeting up with them and saying, "Come on back to the Rear Eagle Bar."
Every now and then. Yeah.
He's an ambassador.
He's an ambassador.
Exactly.
Educator.
I want people to leave, Kentucky with a smile on their face. I mean, that's all it's about, really. That's what bourbon is about. Bourbon isn't about collecting something that nobody can have and nobody can afford and putting it on a shelf. I'd like to have some of those crazy expensive bottles, but probably never will. But, I got a nice little collection of great bourbons, and they're all to share and have fun. So, that's what it's all about.
Well, Amzie, I'm going to say thank you for bringing this. This was a treat. This is good.
Yeah, and like I said, if you happen to get to New Orleans, make sure you reach out to Atelier V. You go to their website. I think you actually have to email Jed. It's a one-man show in there. It is probably the smallest distillery you will ever visit. But he does some great things. I think he's got this. He's got I believe he did a bourbon. He just got a rice whiskey, a traditional green absinthe, a red absinthe. He does some brandies. The brandy, I believe, is called El Jefe. And he knows someone that works for a wine distributor. And if they have, a bottle busts in a case and gets the wine on the other labels, they can't sell those. So instead of just dumping those down the drain, whatever, hodgepodge of wines he gets, he will distill those into the brandy. It's a really good brandy. Neat place. Now, I will say the neighborhood, it is this old industrial park. Our Uber driver wouldn't leave until they made sure we got in the building. So be prepared for that, but definitely a place that's worth a visit.
Do you remember about what you paid for the bottle?
I would say $60 range, something like that.
So we're still holding in the $60 range here.
There you go. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to take a short break. We'll continue sipping on this Louisiana American Single Malt. And when we come back, we've got 2 more whiskeys to try and a lot more fun. Stick around, folks. Looking for a unique gift? Blanton's Bourbon Shop has got you covered. All of their handcrafted wood products are made in their in-house wood shop with authentic bourbon barrels. Specializing in barrel-aged potent treats, they use Blanton's barrels to age their own maple syrup, honey, and coffee. Find the most unique gift ideas for your golf lover, cigar connoisseur, avid coffee drinker, and Blanton's fan. Want to win an authentic Blanton's Barrelhead? Make sure you sign up for the giveaway on the homepage of their website. BlantonsBourbonShop.com is your home for all Blanton's gifts. If you're a bourbon drinker, and I bet you are if you're listening to this podcast, you need to head over to pintsandbarrels.com and check out the ultimate online store for bourbon lovers. Pints and Barrels Company was started by bourbon lovers for bourbon lovers. From spices to t-shirts, you'll find the perfect bourbon gift. Pints and Barrels proudly supports the Bourbon Road and invites you to visit pintsandbarrels.com. Do you need a custom apparel or swag for your bar, distillery, maybe even your bourbon society. They can do that too. As a matter of fact, they print our apparel. We're so happy with the quality and fast turnaround. PintsandBarrels.com, the ultimate bourbon lovers gift shop and branding specialist. All right, folks, so we're back. We had a nice little break there. We got to finish off that Louisiana American Single Malt. That was really a treat. Now we've got a couple single malts for you. Todd, I think you brought the first one this time.
I did. It's Old Line Navy Strength Single Malt. It's bottled in Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland, but it's distilled in Columbus, Ohio. It just says Ohio, but I'm pretty sure I've heard it's from Columbus, Ohio.
I wonder who that is.
Which, if you're a bourbon roadie, you may be able to figure that out. Somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Kind of, sort of.
So let's talk about Baltimore. Baltimore is a maritime port. It's so Navy Strength.
Yeah, Navy Strength. 114 proof. And we did a little Googling and...
So 114 proof. So this was the strength of rum and or gin.
Or gin, and now apparently single malt.
And now single malt that was considered to be the safe proof level to store and transport at any temperature and be good for drinking. So I guess if you're going to throw a barrel of something in the belly of a ship and hit the high seas for 6 months, you want to make sure that it's going to do well.
And does it state that on the bottle? It states it's Navy proof, or you all just knew that?
It does say American Single Malt Whiskey, Navy Strength, 114. It's got...
Unbelievable.
I'm not a military man, but it's got a couple of like the flags for the Navy flags. There's
insignias of some sort. Yeah.
I used to know a few flags.
114 proof. It's probably some kind of storm warning, a gale warning flag or something.
But maybe some of the roadies can explain that. If I'm sure Jim will post a picture of the bottles we're trying tonight. And
that's really cool.
Might be some Navy. Yeah, it is.
I mean, in the Googling that we did, it said something about
Bravo Zulu.
Bravo Zulu.
That's the flags. It's on the back. Yeah. Label. This is a good label. I like it.
Fantastic. But so as one of the results that came up in Google talked about a Navy Strength being appropriate for washing down the quinine that the sailors had to take to avoid scurvy and malaria, right?
Right.
So, and we all know why you drink gin and tonics nowadays, right? Because the tonic is quinine water that they had to take in India to avoid dying of malaria from mosquito bites. And the only way to stomach that stuff was to mix it with your gin.
Wow.
So that's where gin and tonics came from.
So when was the quinine, I guess, is it more of a World War I, II Korean thing, or
this would have been colonial England?
Oh, even. Okay.
Yeah, so this would have been not colonial, colonization of England when they were colonizing the world in the 1800s. And 1700s too, for that matter. So,
wow. Dag, we went down history road right there.
I know it, but I'm guaranteeing you, there's some roadies out there right now.
Yeah,
got their fingers going, googling this stuff. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, but
make a post in the roadies.
Yeah, and there's a handful out there that history buffs that knew this all along.
Well, I'm going to be honest. Even though I did serve in the Navy, I had no idea what Navy Strength meant until 10 minutes ago when we had our break and we were looking all this stuff.
Jim was just over there flexing his muscles. That's what he's like. Navy Strength. It's right there. Look at these guns.
All right, Todd.
Different nose. Like darker fruits.
Yeah, very, very fruity nose on this one.
Yeah, so this one is definitely...
we stepped up in proof. We stepped up in color.
This is a full strength whiskey, no doubt.
I want to say cherries on the nose.
Cherry?
Big time. Cherry.
Get a touch of like cocoa?
I think it's got a little chocolate to it. Yeah, I do think that.
And like like stewed cherries. Like not fresh cherries, like cooked cherries.
A little bit of hay, not, but it's kind of light. So you're getting predominantly cherry and cocoa on it.
It's just a lot of stuff.
This one retails for about, again, along that $55, $60 range. The reason I grabbed this one, a friend of mine sent a single barrel pour to me of theirs. And, I've dabbled my toes in a lot of American Single Malts, but not a great deal. And this was a new one, and he sent it to me. He actually sent it to me blind, and I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure this is a single malt. So I got that part right, but I was like, this is unlike any other single malt I've had. So I'm hoping, I actually just fresh cracked this last night and tried it. And I would say the single barrel, single barrel is going to be a little different, a little off character. And it just really blew my mind. But this one, it's pretty nice.
It has a nice spicy palate to it, though. And I would say a little bit of anise.
Yep.
Pick your pronunciation.
I get a lot of brown sugar, like raw brown sugar too.
Yeah, some kind of like a just cherry cobbler or some kind of cherry dessert. I mean, this is
kind of goes along with that.
Still a little bit of that cocoa.
Cooked cherry concept he was saying.
Yep. Cherry cobbler with a little light chocolate drizzle.
We've had Old Line on the show a couple of times. I think we had him on for a blind tasting. We had an Old Line cast strength rye, I do believe. But I don't run across it often, the Old Line.
Yeah, I don't even think it's distributed here. I think I had somebody grab this for me. I don't know. It's really rich.
Definitely.
I'd say it's a good whiskey. I like it a lot. And you said $55?
$55,
so this
$60
is coming in lower than the other two, right?
Well, I'm not 100% sure on what the cost was of mine, but somewhere in that range. And, that's impressive because the malt is one of the more expensive ingredients,
it is.
In a mash.
Yeah, a lot of times it's kept to as low a percentage as possible in order to, contribute the enzymes that are needed for the conversion. But no, this is just straight malt. This is not any kind of a toasted malt or anything like that. It's just because you get a little bit of that chocolate note. You kind of wonder, is there a little toast on this?
Right. Now it doesn't have any kind of age statement either. So, I mean, maybe a little darker char on the barrel, but this is 100% malted barley, virgin American oak. So, but a lot darker than Rob's 100% and also virgin American oak. But yeah, so the color differences.
Now, where's the Old Line out of?
Baltimore,
Maryland. All right.
Wow. Yeah, this is quite a bourbon or whatever. Here I go again.
Yeah. Bourbon's like
quite a malt.
I mean, it's like it's like calling something a Coke when it's a Sprite or something, right?
Q-tip.
It's a Coke.
Windbreaker.
Q-tip, I like that one.
Q-tip, Windbreaker, Windbreaker was a brand also.
Well, who said rich? Todd, did you say that? I mean, just the intensity of flavors here. The cherry, that chocolate kind of on the finish, it's
like someone threw a bag of brown sugar at you.
Like when you've had a whiskey that it was good, you just wish there was more of it. That's what this is. Like there's a lot there. It's great.
I did good then.
You did way good.
Yeah, I think you did really good. And, I think
road trip to Maryland.
Yeah. I mean, 3 whiskeys in a row so far, all 3 of them delightful in their own way.
Yep.
This one is much more in that proof range that I prefer.
Absolutely.
I think. Not that I don't like a 90 proofer or 94 proofer. I do. I think it's wonderful. But all of a sudden you get to taste something that's above 110. You're like, oh, yeah.
But it's not just the proof; it's the explosion of flavors that it embodies.
It's more concentrated.
Cooler night fireplace. This is what this screams to me.
Man. But sometimes with the higher proof, I mean, I do love higher proof whiskeys. But I sometimes wonder if it's almost the equivalent of like somebody who likes spicy foods. You know, the more you have it, the more your spice tolerance builds. You can pick out more flavors. Like, oh, that habanero or ghost pepper actually has a flavor other than searing pain. Exactly. And I think as you get, accustomed to proof, then these higher proofs are they're more intense. They're more complex. There's more to pick out. But sometimes for the beginner, it could be too much. But you know what? You can always add a little water at that point, until you get to where you can have it at cask stirring.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, if I think about these three we've had so far and which one I think Melody would like, for example, I'm thinking, she would probably like the Louisiana. It's a little bit sweeter, lower proof, a little bit lighter. It's not too floral, but it's got a nice sweetness to it. She would like that. What about Pam? What do you think?
Well, same thing. One of the two.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we had this discussion, the last time we did a podcast. I think, you have to think about this. We kind of get off on our tangent of liking the hot, higher proof, the hotter, the spicier, and yet, if we were so brazen as to hand this to a new novice drinker, we could destroy their concept of bourbon or this type of liquor forever by not being conscientious, be quite honest with you. And you think about, what was it we were talking about, the 80 proof line up here?
Basil Hayden.
The Basil Hayden. Why would we not introduce a novice to that line or something of that lineage?
Or if they want to add water or have it on ice, let them, I mean,
true.
I used to drink on the rocks quite a bit. And one thing I actually liked about that was as the ice melted, it diluted it more. And you kind of went through this range of flavors as you enjoyed the glass.
True statement.
Chocolate's really settling in on this.
Yeah. Is it?
Yeah.
The only problem I had with the rock was as it diluted, I just kept drinking faster. So I had to eliminate the rock. That was the only reason I eliminated the rock.
Now they do have a 90, I believe it's a 90 proofer. So I don't think it's had any extra kind of nomenclature to it, but it's just be called the old line, American Single Malt. And so
this is the first thing I've ever had from Old Line. But I will definitely be seeking out some of their other products.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, this is great.
In fact, if you've seen any single barrels out there, bourbon roadies, send me a message.
You'd like to know.
I'm telling you, that single malt really, like, I was just, I think I would put it up there. I don't want to be spoilers, but the one we're getting ready to have here in a minute is up there. I've had some great Westward.
I love Westward.
I've had
Stranahan's.
I've had a couple of Stranahan single barrels that were mind blowing. And then Jim just gave me a pour not too long ago of 291 out of Colorado, and that thing.
That was insane.
Just a beast. And I mean, 146 proof, but it was, yikes. I poured that and I probably took me 2 hours to drink that or something. Yeah. It was so good. Proof didn't matter. It was special.
Yeah. I think Michael, they're doing, a lot of distilleries do that. They'll do these one-offs, a few barrels of this, a few barrels of that, just trying things. And then all of a sudden it comes of age and they pull it out and they're like, oh my God, it's good, right? So what do? You're like, okay, well, it's going to be 5 more years. Let's make some more. Mm-hmm. I mean, but that's it. That's how it goes.
Yep. Yeah.
My goodness. How amazing was that?
Crazy.
Well, I love this. I think it's really good. I'm feeling like I want a bottle of each of these on my bar so far.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, that's the neat thing about it all is that what I want on my bar, for me personally, is the crazy flavors, probably these last 2 that we're going to have. but I also want the other two for someone who doesn't like these high proof and
proofers,
peppery.
yeah.
You know, that's the fun. I don't want to have a party and exclude some people. I want to have a party and everybody be happy.
Everybody's invited to Rob's.
Everybody,
right.
the Rare Eagle, man.
Well, I'll tell you, Rob, you've been on this malt whiskey kick. You're ahead of the times because I think I just jumped on that wagon after these first three.
I know. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I hit that accidentally. And I remember my first pour of something, you know, I drank it. I said, wait a minute, what is this? And where do I get it? And how do I get more of it? And where did it come from? Kind of thing. It was just a bizarre thing. But there's so many things going out in the whiskey bourbon, you know, world, whatever we call this right now. That just it's amazing. There's a spot for everybody. I mean, there's a flavor, there's a proof, there's a, you know, whatever. So
Absolutely.
That's what's kind of fun, and we're right in the middle of it, you know. So, and Frankfurt Bourbon Society is right there.
All right. So are you guys ready to move on to the fourth and final pour of the show?
Yes.
Heck yeah.
I'm ready to move on to the fifth and sixth. I wish we had more, more to try
I thought
out.
about bringing more than one, but I was like, wait a minute, we're going to be limited on time here, but
Yeah.
we can do it. We can do it part two. How's that? We'll just, because there are so many American single malts that didn't make it to the show. You mentioned, you know, Westward. I grabbed that bottle that I tasted a few bottles before I came here when I was picking mine, and Westward was one of them. Their American single malt.
I've got an ASW I almost grabbed that's open, and I was like,
Oh, ASW. It's a darling. I love them.
It's a single barrel, and it's picked by Jason and Scott, my friends, Mash and Journey.
Yep.
And it's tastes like a root beer float.
Wow. Fantastic. Yeah, ASW is definitely a darling distillery out of Atlanta. I love those guys.
Yeah.
Oh, Jim.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Tell us about yours, Jim, because this
so-
thing's nose is just, it's heaven.
All right. So I think this bottle has been on the show, but it would have been a number of months back as part of a general review. But this is from Cedar Ridge Distillery in Iowa. This is the quintessential series. This is the Tokai finished American single malt. So we did visit the distillery a number of months back. We had a great interview with Murphy Quint, who's the proprietor, master distiller, you know, just an all-around great guy who's totally dedicated to the art of American single malts. Wow. And he has a series of these, and this particular one, the Tokai finished, was one that stood out to me. This is 117.8 proof.
Wow.
It is finished in Tokai casks, which, Amzie, I think you have more background on the Tokai.
Can you spell that word for me? I'm unfamiliar.
Tokaji.
I think that's
Yeah,
right.
looks like Tokaji. And what do we say? It's Hungarian.
You also see it
Right.
Tokai sometimes. It's
Yeah.
it's just kind of like whiskey without the Y, without and with
All right, we said it was Hungarian. It's a Hungarian.
Hungarian
dessert
sweet
wine.
Dessert wine, yeah.
Well,
Made from grapes that dry on the vine. You know, it's my understanding you can find some Tokai out there that's aged that the stuff is about like thick as honey out of a bottle, you know.
This nose is.
But the idea is, I guess, that it was the King's Vineyards or something like that, and the vintner allowed the grapes to stay on the vine too long, and they became overly sweet and dry on the vine. And he made wine out of it anyway because he didn't want to get his head cut off or whatever it was. And at the end of the day, the king loved it and called it the King of Wines, the Wine of Kings. So apparently it was a beautiful mistake, something that turned into a beautiful mistake, right? Something that's just amazing. So
I haven't found anything finished in a Tokai barrel that I didn't love. I think Glenmorangie Scotch. They have one, I think, a couple years ago. It's like Tale of the Cake or something like that, finished in Tokai. I've had some great ryes finished in Tokai. This is great too.
Wow.
I don't want to drink it. I just want to smell it.
Yeah.
It's like when you make your bread batter. It's got that kind of thing, and then there's also like beside that bread batter is like a can of fruit salad. It is like so fruity, and
it has like a really thick, jammy
like
kind of
sweet, like that sweet, canned fruit, like a fruit. What was that called? Fruit medley, or had like the little red cherries and slices of pineapple and pear and all that. I mean, I used to love that stuff as a kid. So this is like I'm
didn't they feed
8 years old right now.
Didn't they feed us? Didn't they feed us that at school?
I think so. Oh, this nose.
Yeah, it's really good. It does have the bready and the fruity, almost like a compote or like a cooked fruit kind of thing. And when you take like a pastry dough and a cooked fruit together, I mean, what is that? That's a cobbler, right? It's kind of
pretty much.
Kind of like a cobbler.
Cheers on this one.
Dang.
Yep, cheers.
Cheers.
117.8 proof.
Oh, man.
$69 a bottle. So we're still in that 60-ish range, right?
Yeah. Is that what we call approachable?
Approachable?
Is that the...
I think 60 is approachable.
Yeah. I mean, that's the definition of
I'll take two.
So to speak, right? I mean...
Yeah. That's delicious.
And I'm really getting burnt out on this, literally the whole $75 to $100 range stuff, honestly. I mean, just because we just think about this, I don't think we could be any happier than we are right now with this lineup, especially these last two. And we're in an affordable range. We're not paying
so
prices.
four whiskeys tonight, all of them at or around $60. All great whiskeys, all American single malts.
Yeah.
So if you're a bourbon drinker, if you're a rye drinker, and you haven't taken the plunge and got yourself a bottle of American single malt, I highly suggest you do. We gave you 4 great ones to pick from tonight.
Varying ages, varying proofs. Yeah.
I wish I knew the age on this. I don't. He may have told me in the show. Dial back on the episodes a little bit and go to the episode on Cedar Ridge, Iowa, and we'll talk about this one with the guy that makes it. But
I like this.
Yeah,
it's dessert.
It is
dessert in a glass.
It's a perfect pour to be last.
And I say it's a dessert, but it's not like overly sweet or extremely sweet, but it's just...
It's rich.
Yeah.
It has a richness to it.
I would add the palate. There's a little more like caramel, like a caramel drizzle over all that fruit now.
When there's a little bit of that, that dried grape, a little bit of that raisin, like on the nose and palate. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a stronger, deeper. When you were talking about that over dried grape, that's what really resonated with me. It's a deeper, stronger grape flavor than you often.
Because you say raisin, that may gross some people out. I promise this is good.
I had raisin bran this morning for breakfast, so I like raisins.
Yeah, me too.
So my my mom, when I was a kid, I thought it was the grossest thing ever, and now as an adult, I love it. She makes raisin pie.
Raisin,
and
yeah. Anything like mincemeat pie? What? I never really knew what the heck that stuff was.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
The raisin pie was you kind of rehydrate them. There's some cinnamon in there, little bit of lemon maybe.
I was thinking like bread pudding. That's what I was thinking. Like,
definitely.
Yeah,
bread pudding.
Well, I know in the episodes we had with Cedar Ridge and with Copper and Kings here in Louisville, they're both very intentional about their barrel acquisitions and the timing between the dump date versus the refill date, like when they're dumped, when they receive them in, and the temperatures and everything that goes into it. I mean, it's a real science, and I gained a big respect for people that are doing secondary barrel finishes, especially when they have this tremendous logistics plan around these barrels. Like if I can't put my spirit in this barrel within 30 days after it's dumped, I don't want it. That kind of thing. You know what I mean? So it's interesting that, and this is a quality pour here.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't feel like sometimes you can have where the base spirit, the original spirit, can get lost in a finish, and I don't think that's the case here. They complement each other so well.
Definitely.
Well, I'm glad we didn't do this blind, because this would probably have been the winner.
Yeah.
Just going to say that.
Yeah.
It's good.
Well, this is kind of more fun. I don't know. I was thinking about that whole blind thing, but
this makes me happy.
That can be unique at times, but kind of knowing what we're doing, and like you said, letting the listeners kind of feel through it as we go.
Yeah, I think sometimes the blind episodes can be.
We've done a couple of those.
We have,
for sure.
and they've been great fun for us.
Sure,
and I think they've done well with the listeners too. But it's hard as a listener to follow along when everybody's saying this is A, this is B, this is C,
right?
And you're trying to keep track of that, and then at the end of the show, then they're revealed.
Yeah,
you're like, okay, which one was that?
Maybe that's not there's not a place for that on your show. Come to think of it.
I think we'll still do the blind bottle shares.
I was going to say, Jim just finally won his first blind.
He finally
won one.
So he wants to do it.
I'm all for it.
He wants to retain his title.
Well, so to start your recap, Jim, on my own, without your permission.
Please do.
You got to think about this. Don't you think that all four of these have a place? There's a place for every type of drinker. I mean, again, we got to remember, maybe we're all right. So maybe Jim, you and I are older. We're grizzled, hardened drinkers. So, we've moved to the higher proof and crazier flavors. But I think you guys are experienced enough. You guys are Todd and Amzie. You guys are kind of in that same realm, right? But we must always remember the new, the novice, and you know what? Palates are different. There's a place for those first two that we tasted that's, people are going to really enjoy. I mean, they were really good. I liked them. If you hadn't introduced me to these last two, I'd have been a happy camper. But then you got me to these last two, and then all of a sudden, wow.
It wakes up our tired old palates, right?
Sure, absolutely.
Because the older you get, the more tired your palate gets a little bit.
Right.
And that's nature. Sorry, guys. Just the way it works. You two are a little bit younger than Rob and I think.
And we've amped up to to some of these higher proofs and spicier stuff, and that other people, my wife is a precious lady, but she prefers smoother things. She wouldn't mind a floral and so forth, but not a high proof spicy. So I want her to sip a neat pour with me, so she can do that.
I'll say this about a higher proof single malt: they don't drink as hot as, say, a bourbon or a rye at that same proof. I don't think.
You're right.
They tend to come off I don't like to use the word smooth that much, but a little smoother than, say, a 117 proof bourbon compared to 117 proof rye compared to 117 proof single malt. Totally different ball game. Yeah. So, and then of course, always add that drop of water, but I don't think, obviously if you wanted to walk, this would be like a nice walkthrough for a single malt experience right here. What
Absolutely.
We did, a 90, a 94, a 114 and a 117. And you could even probably probably try to find something in that 100 range and, go from there.
Yeah,
but,
one more piece in that middle ground.
Right,
if
but,
you want. Yeah.
Is there a bottle of bond American Single Malt that you guys know of?
I mean, it should
could
be a thing
could be a
eventually.
thing. I mean, anything can be bottled and bond, right?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm almost certain it's got to be out there. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know where like
all the old guys like Westward and, Stranahan's, I've never seen anything.
I know.
So
they've been doing it a while.
Those would be the ones that would have something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still that whole...
Maybe Whiskey Witch from Spirits of French Lick. While they call it, I don't know what they even call it. It's a poachine style, which is turns out you can't use poachine. That's a protected designation, which is sort of like a moonshine from Scotland, or maybe it's Irish. I don't know. But I think it's over 50% malted barley and then has some wheat notes in it. And I think French Lick released that at a Bottle and Bond, I believe.
Oh, okay. Cool.
But I could be off. Maybe they've only done single barrels to this point. I don't know. But I feel like there has to be somebody who's done that.
All right. Well, cheers to all the distilleries that are out there pushing the envelope and deciding to jump on the American Single Malt whiskey wagon. I think it's a great thing for us. It's a great thing for consumers.
Absolutely.
And if you're a listener to the show and you haven't tried an American Single Malt, take their first baby step. And what are you going to say? Maybe the Bullet's the easiest one to get their hands on.
Bullet, Claremont Steep
from Jim Beam. Yeah.
But I don't. That Bullet also though is so approachable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that is such a good, good price.
Sure.
10 years old. Like,
I mean, if you happen to see a Stranahan's 90 proofer, I think is that'd be
Good
worth
stuff.
a shot. Yeah.
Good stuff. Out in the West. It seems like the west of the Mississippi's got the upper hand a little bit on the single malts. They've been doing it. Well, I think that like Colorado and Washington State. Yeah, for sure. They've got a little bit more malt production up in those areas. So,
in Leopold in Colorado, they make their own malt even.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
they got their own malting floor there.
Yeah.
Todd is tried twice now. Maybe on this next trip to Colorado, we're going to get together. We've talked about it. I definitely want to get there and love to try their single malt there. I've never had their single malt.
I don't think I've either. I've got several of their products. They don't distribute to Kentucky, I don't believe. And I was in Iowa maybe and found a liquor store that sold their stuff. Hopefully other people out there understand this. I literally had to go to Walmart and buy another suitcase. We were flying and had to buy another suitcase to get all the bottles home.
Maybe my timing will be just right to pick up some more 3-chamber rye. I don't know.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, me too. All right, folks, it's been great. Thank you guys so much for making time on a Sunday to sit down and drink some whiskey. Rob, you're such the penultimate host.
Thank you for coming to the Carter's Rare Eagle Bar. And we'd love to have you anytime, and any roadies out there. We got a few roadies coming into town soon that we'll be dropping by.
They can find you in the Bourbon Roadies, right?
Heck
Just shoot you a message,
Heck
say
yeah.
I'm coming to town.
Heck yeah. We'll hang out.
When you're not grabbing folks from Kansas and
Oklahoma,
and Minnesota,
Wisconsin,
and all these places to come
New
over to here
York.
and drink whiskey with you.
Yeah.
You'd love to run into some roadies, I think.
Yeah, even more fun.
All right. Well, Todd and Amzie, what's coming up on the schedule for Frankfurt Bourbon Society? You guys got some distilleries coming in, some things going on?
Well, we've got our cookout May 20th, which is the third Monday. We always have a third Monday member meetup. That's one of our few standing events. First Tuesday of every month, we go to a local establishment in Frankfurt. But I think, that's the big thing. If any roadies are ever in town, reach out to myself or Todd. If we don't have an event going on, we're happy to meet you at the Frankfurt Bourbon Society corner of Rick House. Share a few pours with you there.
Or the House of Commons.
House
One of
Commons,
our favorite places to have a pour.
Fantastic place.
Yeah, our friend Dave Sandlin down there. It's a great place. Some Dusties. half-ounce pours available of everything they have. And then little ways off still, but Bourbon on the Banks Festival, first Saturday in October. Hope to see everyone there at the Roadies tent. And then, of course, we always have something at the Frankfurt Bourbon Society after that, and Roadies are always welcome to come to that.
All right. Well, once again, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and sharing your whiskey and your time with our roadies. We certainly appreciate it. We always love having you guys on the show.
Thank you.
I think if we add up the number of episodes that Rob and Todd and Amzie have been on, it's probably in the 15 to 20 range or so. So you guys are always welcome guests. You can find the Bourbon Road on all social media outlets. So you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Threads, TikTok. Yeah, all that stuff. We're trying to do it all. We don't do it great, but we do the best we can. Every single week on Wednesday, we put on an episode. We usually have a guest on. Sometimes it's just a few of us guys sitting around drinking through some whiskeys like we did today. It's always fun. It's always something you should be a part of. To make sure you don't miss an episode, scroll up to the top of that app you're on, hit that subscribe button. That way you get a notification every week when we drop an episode. But until the next time, we'll see you down the Bourbon Road.